on the anvil yet at this stage. What we gather from these leaks, which may or may not be reliable, is that things didn't quite go the way the Pakistanis would have wanted. Don't forget, they are a member of the council at this time. They're one of the 15, whereas India is not. So they're in the room and India is not in the room. But nonetheless, what we are picking up is that many countries were sharply critical of what happened in Pahalgam and were frankly disbelieving of the Pakistani theory that the Indians are doing it to themselves in order to harass Pakistan, the kind of absurd argument that some Pakistanis have been making. My guesswork on all of this is that there will be a certain amount of pressure on both countries not to escalate too far. At the same time, there is a level of understanding that India can't just let this go. I mean, you have a terrorist attack that you treat with impunity, then the result could be that the fellows will be emboldened to keep doing it again. So there must be a price to be paid, and that I think is what we are leaving it to the government to exact a price from the sponsors of these terrorists as well as hunt down the terrorists themselves.
On that note, it's time for a quick break on Nation at 5. On the other side, coming up is Take 3 Shots.
आपके घर के खबर।
Remember, there is already a meeting which is on in North Block, which is to test the civil defence preparedness of India. What is it that we can expect in terms of the measures that will be the focus of these mock drills on 7th of May as the critical directives have been put into action? Air raid sirens are being operationalized to ensure swift alerts. Civilians are also undergoing training for emergency response in the event of an attack. Also, authorities have initiated crash blackout measures to safeguard key locations. Remember, what are these key locations? They are the sensitive border area locations. Evacuation plans are being updated for better coordination. Additionally, early camouflage efforts for vital plants, which are all mostly on the border, are underway to enhance security. And with that, we have some breaking inputs, in fact, coming in. Let's quickly bring you those breaking inputs on the Ministry of Home Affairs, as CNN News 18 has exclusively accessed MHA's list of districts where mock drills are going to be taking place. Remember, 244 districts is what we've told you are going to be experiencing those civil defense mock drills, which will be testing the preparedness of all the civilians. And CNN News 18 has finally accessed the list of those mock drills. What are going to be those 244 districts? As Arunima has been highlighting throughout, that the measures and the focus of each district is going to be different depending on its geographical location. Arunima is joining me live on the broadcast. Arunima, if you could give us a sense of course, not the entire list, but some of the major critical ones on that list.
See, like we have been saying, that this mock drill is not limited to our western border alone. It's not as if only Punjab, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir and Rajasthan is going to see this drill because they share a border with Pakistan. But yes, there are a number of districts in these states as well. But it's the same with our northeastern border. Assam, for example, has about 15 districts here. 15 districts of Assam: Dibrugarh, Dhubri, Gopalpara, Jorhat, Digboi, Guwahati, all these places. Why? Because Assam is an important state on our northeastern border, and the tension with Bangladesh, the kind of voices that we have heard, anti-India voices from Bangladesh, makes Assam vulnerable. Then you come to Bihar. There are 4 districts in Bihar also: Barauni, Katihar, Patna and Purnia. Again, these are districts. Patna, of course, is the capital, but these are districts in North Bihar where there is a border shared with Nepal, where there is a infiltration attempt that we have seen via Bangladesh. So because of that factor also, there is a vulnerability assessment that has been done. Chandigarh, the Union Territory, it's an important Union Territory, not very far from the India-Pakistan border. So Chandigarh, of course, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, another Union Territory on our western coast. It's a Union Territory which is susceptible. Daman and Diu too, and of course the national capital of Delhi. Delhi, we all know, it's a national capital, so it's always vulnerable. Now let's look at some of the areas which may not have occurred to you. For example, Puducherry. Puducherry has also been marked as a vulnerable site where this drill will be carried out. It's on our eastern coastal side, but yet there is a vulnerability assessment there, perhaps because of the kind of vital installations that are close to Puducherry. Odisha, Arunachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, I can see there are about 26 districts which have been listed, 16 districts, I beg your pardon. Amritsar, Bhatinda, Firozpur, Hoshiarpur, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Patiala, Pathankot. Pathankot had seen a terror attack, so of course it's vulnerable. There's an air base which saw an attack there. Mohali, Abohar, Bhakra Nangal, because of the dam, I think it's very...
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another edition of Take 3 Shots. I'm Anand Narasimhan, with me Zaka Jacob and Rahul Shivshankar. So we're talking mock drills. First up, the nation is gearing up for the mock drill scheduled for midweek around 7 p.m. in the evening. But many of these 244 districts that have been identified that are spread across Bharat, not just in the northern region, but some towards the south, some towards the northeast also. The mock drills have already begun. Gents, your take on the mock drills. Is this because Bharat is planning an offensive, or is it to be prepared that this is a whole of government approach? If we act, there will be retaliation. And what do you do in a situation like that? First time since 1971. I've never been through any of these drills. Don't know about the two of you pulling on the ears, whether you have been. Rahul Shivshankar?
It happened much before I was born. Actually, 4 years before I was born. So I'm closest. I'm 50. So I was the closest to that time. But I do remember my parents talking about it when I was a child. And in New Delhi, where I live, in the central part, actually, every day at 9 o'clock, there used to be the siren that used to go off. It was the 9 o'clock chime, as people called it. So one has a sense of this resounding through neighborhoods, at least of central Delhi, though it was not ominous. This is obviously a clear attempt by the Modi government to cover all its bases in the event of an Indian strike and reprisals from Pakistan, preparing the Indian public for how they should react in a situation like this. So I don't think we need to be alarmed, but we need to be definitely prepared. This is purely defensive action, but fundamentally it also doesn't mean that we are going to go to war in any case. So, one has to understand that this is also a method of psyops. Telling Pakistan that, look, we're coming for you, you might retaliate, we'll be prepared for you. So it's just a part of the optics, the symbolism, but nothing that you can discount either. So it's an interesting game that India is playing with Pakistan psychologically, and Pakistan is actually quite brittle. If you look at most of their ministers, they have been constantly resorting to nuclear blackmail, which shows that it's the last gasp of a desperate Pakistan that is being choked. And today you have had a situation where Pakistan has decided to increase its defense budget by 18%. It is fearing a 21% water loss. The Indian government is fast-tracking one of the most important hydroelectric projects, which is going to be the highest dam in the world, and is also going to be the front line for storing water down the Chenab that goes to Pakistan. We've also had the green light for 4 other stalled projects in Jammu and Kashmir, which will allow for us to divert those western rivers into other parts of the country, including Jammu and Kashmir. So all of this is happening simultaneously and without crossing the LOC, to be quite frank with you. Pakistan is in a sad state. You also have insurgencies right now in Pakistan. There is the Pashtuns who are expressing discontent, the Baluchis who have struck again in the last 24 hours, released videos of an attack on a Pakistani camp. So if you look at the panoply, Pakistan is in trouble. It's actually fighting tense situation on 3 sides. So this is only adding. This sort of symbolism, optical, signaling call it what you want to, is only adding to the sense of anxiety.
Let me ask Zaka that. Do you agree it is to keep the heart rate up on the other side, while to calm the nerves and to perhaps somewhere also get people to understand that we are entering into something where all of us need to be prepared as a nation?
No, I think what you said, it's not just one generation, maybe a couple of generations have not seen something like this. The last time, maybe 3 generations have not seen something like this. So the last time something like this happened was 1971, and this morning, just before I was dropping her to school, my daughter said, what are these drills? Because they're aware now. People are talking about it in schools and, what should we do and so on. And I had to Google, what do these civil drills actually mean? What are you supposed to do? We're all trained, what should you do if there is an earthquake? What should you do if there's a terrorist attack, right? But no one's really trained or even brought up the subject of, what if there is a war? Because it was so outside our, lexicon about a full-fledged war happening between India and Pakistan. Even when Kargil happened, obviously it was a tense situation, but it was very limited by nature. The outside of Kashmir, outside of, some of the hot zones, it didn't really affect the rest of the country. It went on for 3 months. So the point being that this is sort of uncharted territory for at least 2 or 3 generations of Indians, and of course ours is one of the youngest countries in the world. More than 50% of our population is under the age of 35 and so on. So for the Modi government, I think it's 2 things. One is, yes, I do agree, some part of it could be a smoke screen, some part of it could just be psyops to try and psych out the other side. But more than that is also to tell the country that, look, war doesn't necessarily begin and end at the armed forces, or it doesn't begin or end just with the government. The people also will have to make some sacrifices. The people will also have to be steeled to give the response that everyone wants India to give Pakistan for what happened in Pahalgam. So I think this is in that
I think
sense
2-3 generations, like you said, have not seen war come to their doorstep. There has been conflict, and that's why many defense experts and Fauji's don't call Kargil a war. They think it's a conflict because it never went beyond the periphery of what was defined as the area of action, the theatre of action. So
actually it was an Indian soil.
Yeah.
So let's not discount that. This would mean kinetic action across borders.
Correct. I was just coming to that in
borders.
that case it was the Pakistanis who transgressed, and we said we are not going to cross the Maryada and we are not going to go across beyond the LOC, that it was destined there. But in this case, we would be seen as someone who's going to go and get territory that is ours and somewhere teach a lesson on non-Indian soil, perhaps, going beyond that. We don't know what's going to happen, but so they will be defending. So in that case, you don't trust that they have no morals. If they can single out individuals, innocent civilians on the basis of religion and get them to gun them down, they can resort to anything. They can bomb a school, they can bomb a dam, they can bomb a hospital, they can bomb an oil refinery, any of these things. So anything can happen. But do you think collectively the response, how it's going to be, the drill that's going to happen, there could be blackout. The city may just go dark for some time because we'll have to accept that. We are looking at the peak months of summer and thereafter monsoons. So these are tough months, not just for the soldiers, but also for us as citizens. So is this somewhere also gearing us up mentally to say that if you want this to be an Arya Par ki ladai, then you also got to buckle up and grit your teeth and say, all right, if it's going to be tough, it's going to be tough, but let's just solve this once and for all. You think that's also one aspect?
The drills, like I said, are a degree of familiarization that, look, it's the cost to pay is not just for the armed forces or for the government. But having said that, Anand, I keep coming back to, what is the objective of what India wants to achieve here, right? Let's be very clear. Any military operation, any kinetic action has to be defined by what is your objective? What are you trying to achieve? And I think, at least from the conversations that I am having with people in government, it's a very limited objective, and that is to make sure that Pakistan understands the pain of carrying out terror attacks like Pahalgam.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced by the idea of occupying territory.
Here's the thing.
That's the objective.
Many experts believe that oftentimes we have just gone there and struck. Balakot was a strike, Uri was a response. We've done there, but Pakistanis and that establishment there believes we'll give them a kick on their backside, but we don't keep the foot on their backside for good. So the messaging one, and to ensure that the cost of waging a war, a proxy war on us, we've not made it so dear that every time you fire a bullet at any of our civilians or on our territory, we're going to take so much of your, what you believe is your land and what you're occupying. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep reducing the margins. I don't think that we've done that. Quickly, we've got limited time, so I just want your thoughts on the UNSC. One UNSC and the other one is Guterres. So the kind of noises, embarrassment for Pakistan inside the UNSC,
frankly,
but what Guterres has done, has he been fair to us?
It's a diplomatic victory from India, at least the version that we are getting. Pakistan has its own take, as you know. They've released their own statement contradicting everything that we've said in ours. It was a closed-door meeting, so we only have our government's word to take for it. I won't believe the liars in Pakistan in any case. So, look, it's a diplomatic victory, and we have stalled what would have been a resolution. But the fact is that no one really takes the United Nations seriously anymore. In the international scenario, whether they sort of say, look, hold back, or not, doesn't matter. It didn't matter to Clinton in Yugoslavia. It didn't matter to Bush when he went into Afghanistan. It didn't matter to Bush or to Obama when he transgressed territory and they got into Iraq and Afghanistan. It doesn't matter to Russia when it decided to. And no one. Exactly. So, hyping this UNSC business is an outdated, defunct institution run by a cabal of 5 neo-imperialistic powers. It's a finished entity. It doesn't run beyond its own, little.
So you would not want to add so much of weight, but soon
we
after,
have to do what we'll
soon after they come back, you have the Pakistani defense minister threatening Armageddon. Either we survive or no one survives. What is all this? How do you read this? Quickly, final word.
There is sub-nuclear options, and we've seen for the last 20 plus years, both India and Pakistan have declared nuclear weapons since 1998, since the Pokhran 2 tests and their, Chagai bombings. So the idea that every time there's a, confrontation between India and Pakistan, suddenly things will go nuclear, I think that bluff has been called a long time ago. We've had multiple, confrontations after that. We've had Kargil, we've had 2611, we've had Uri, Balakot, etc. There's sub-nuclear options that are happening. And, wars across the world as well. I mean, Russia has been dragged on for this war for the last 3 years. They have nuclear weapons. They're not using it.
Yeah.
Even though, Putin is met with accusations of having used tactical nukes and so on. Syria was accused of using chemical weapons. Look, and Khwaja Asif, I don't think anybody takes
So nobody is taking Pakistan seriously, but please take the mock drills, the civil defense drills and the officials, what their instructions are, seriously. It's in our interest as people, and that's what we can do to contribute. On that note, we're going to wind up this edition of Take 3 Shots. Thank you, gents. Plain Speak up next.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The ripples of what transpired on the fateful afternoon of April 22 in Pahalgam are being felt across the country, across the border and around the world. Time has come to prepare, to refresh our memories of what it is like to be in a military conflict. We know what it feels to lose Indian lives, but only drip by drip, certainly since Kargil. India hasn't experienced a full-scale war since 1971. So not surprising the shock that everyone felt when Home Ministry announced directives for mock civilian drills to be conducted across the country yesterday. Preparations are underway for these drills tomorrow, with the embarrassing memories of